Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Villa Park City Council. I hereby call the meeting to order. Steve, will you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Miles,
Present.
Councilman Pitts, Councilman Wu,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones,
Here.
Mayor Rossini.
Here. Thank you. Today, I will ask Councilmember Wu to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin.
Thank you. The Villa Park City Council staff welcome you to this meeting. We encourage your participation. If you wish to address the City Council, please complete and submit a speaker card to the City Clerk before the scheduled meeting time. Speaker cards are located in the rear of the room. Speakers will be called called up individually during the public comment section of the item they wish to speak on. Speakers will be limited to a time period of 5 minutes. Speakers were also able to submit comments in writing by 3 p.m. today. Those comments will be read aloud during the public comment section of the item. Steve, do we have any?
We've received no public comments.
Okay. Tonight we have presentations tonight by Southern California Edison.
Good evening, Mayor Rossini, members of the City Council. Thank you very much for having us here this evening. My name is Cynthia Quimby, and I'm a Government Relations Manager for Southern California Edison, and I get the pleasure of representing the City of Villa Park in my role. And I'm also joined tonight by my colleague, James Peterson. He is a Senior Manager in our local Public Affairs Department, and he is one of our subject matter experts on rates. So I'm glad to have my colleague with me tonight. So we're here tonight to talk about something that's gotten a lot of traction in the media, on social media. It's a pretty hot topic. There's been some misinformation out there, so really happy to be here to hopefully clear some of that up. But it's on the topic of a recent state mandate that will change the way our customers' electricity bills are structured, and it's referred to as the fixed charge. Next slide, please. So how did this all come about? In 2022, the California legislature passed and Governor Newsom signed Assembly Bill 205. And this law authorizes electric bills to be separated into a monthly fixed charge to cover certain fixed costs and a variable charge that's based on customer electricity usage during their billing period. AB 205 requires that when implemented, the fixed charge results in lower bills on average for our low-income customers. And it also requires that there be at least 3 tiers that are based on income level. SCE and other utilities have supported greater use of a fixed charge in the past and for many years, but not necessarily tied to income levels. That was never part of what we were talking about. Next slide, please. So some key facts that are helpful to know. Today, customers' energy bills and the rates they pay are made up of some different components. So one part is the fixed costs of safely building, maintaining, and operating the electric grid, of providing customer support, and also the cost of state initiatives to help income-qualified customers and to fund our energy efficiency programs. Another piece is the cost of electricity that our customers use. This can vary month to month. SCE buys fuel to generate energy. We also buy power from other companies. And by law, these costs get passed through directly to customers without any markup. So we don't make money off of customer rates. We actually make a return on investment on our infrastructure, so the poles and the wires. So there is no markup when these costs get passed through. Today, both fixed costs and electricity usage costs are combined on residential customers' bills into what they call an energy charge. And the new law, AB 205, requires costs to be separated out. So you'll have the monthly fixed charge to cover the fixed costs, and then you'll have the energy charge that's based on customer usage. As part of AB 205, the CPUC is tasked with basing the fixed charge on a customer's income level. And with the customers from lower income households paying a lower fixed charge than customers from higher income households. Utilities, and this is one of the pieces of misinformation out there, we will not be collecting any more revenue with this new bill structure than we do now with this new fixed charge. The change would basically be just in how everything's structured, but with the all customers paying the fixed charge, we're going to be able to reduce the cost for each unit of electricity, so each kilowatt hour used. So the usage rate is going to go down, even though all customers will be paying the fixed charge. Next slide, please. Okay, so this change is a significant change in the way customer bills are structured. One of the points I wanted to emphasize is that the fixed charge is already a component of your bill. The new bill structure does not include any new tax or fee. I think that's something that a lot of people think is that this is going to be like a utility tax or a new fee that's added onto your bill. What's basically happening again is the restructuring with the fixed charge component for everybody and then the volumetric usage rate going down. And then you may be asking, what was the intent behind AB 205? So the legislature, the intent was, one, to benefit lower income customers. About 1/3 or 1.2 million of Edison's residential customers participate in one of our income-based financial assistance programs. We've got the CARE program, which stands for California Alternate Rates for Energy. And this program offers eligible customers a 30% discount on their bill if they're eligible. We have the FARE program, and this is the Family Electric Rate Assistance Program, which offers an 18% discount on your bill for eligible families or households. So there's the kind of individual one and then family. These customers stand to benefit the most from the income graduated fixed charge. The second thing that the legislature is looking to do is to provide more transparency and predictability. Customers will be able to see what they're paying for certain grid and customer program costs, and then they can actually see what they're paying for usage separately. And then finally, the legislature said that it will help low, middle, and high income customers as there's more electric adoption. So as we're seeing more electric vehicles, electric heat pumps, building electrification, it's going to bring the usage rate down so you're not paying the higher rate as you're using more electricity. Next slide, please. So the CPUC did ask the IOUs to submit proposals to lay out how the fixed charge can be implemented, because the legislation doesn't do that. That's going to have to be determined by the CPUC. So the current proposal submitted by SCE is in response to that, and the CPUC has asked that, one, it allow for fixed charge to be launched quickly, and two, that they not have to rely on some new processes for income data collection. And I know that's been a big concern as well, as people are concerned about Edison checking on how much money they make. And by the way, we do not want to be in that business. We've never wanted to do that. And so we're happy to submit a proposal that addresses that concern. So our current proposal includes a $51 fixed charge for standard customers not enrolled in one of our discounted bill programs for low-income customers. And then for those who do qualify for the CARE and FARA programs, their fixed charge will be lower. It'll be $10 or $15, depending on income level. And then finally, applying this fixed charge, as I said, will allow us to reduce the cost for each unit of electricity, so each kilowatt hour, by about 26% for all residential customers. Let's see, so one example, for residential rate of about 36 cents per kilowatt hour, it would drop to 26 cents. And then under the joint IOU proposal filed, CARE and FARE customers in high electric use areas would be the greatest beneficiaries because of the combination of the reduced volumetric rate, and then they're paying the lowest fixed charge brackets, and finally they're going to get the additional discount on top of that they receive for being in the program. Standard income customers would not be required to provide their income or have their income verified. For the lower income customers, Edison can use information they've already provided during CARE or FARE enrollment to verify their income, and it's all voluntary. Next slide. So here you see some of the proposals that have been submitted to the CPUC by the main interested parties. So first is the joint proposal by the investor-owned utilities, which for Edison customers, there'd be an average fixed charge level of $41 a month, and then a 24% average reduction in energy usage rates. The second kind of column there, it's the CalPA is California Public Advocates, and TURN is the Utility Reform Network. These are both consumer advocate groups, and they teamed up with NRDC, which is an environmental advocacy group, to submit this kind of middle-of-the-road proposal, which would put the fixed charge at $23.50, and it would have the volumetric rate be at 15% reduction. And then finally, SEIA is Solar Energy Industries Association. They have the lowest fixed charge proposal with $7 a month, and then a 4% reduction in the usage rates. Next slide, please. So I won't read all these quotes, but I did want to, provide a few quotes from some of the other interests and point out just a couple. Alice Reynolds, who is the president of the CPUC, said recently that the existing bill structure in California is outdated and not in line with utilities across the country, as well as municipal utilities in California in the way that bills are structured. So the point being that, this is being done elsewhere. This isn't a new, a new way to structure bills. And then in a letter to legislators, the consumer advocate groups and NRDC said that fixed charges have already been implemented in many areas of California by not-for-profit public-owned utilities that have no shareholders. Also, the outcome of the fixed charge proceeding will not provide any opportunity for these investor-owned utilities to increase their profits or raise overall rates. Next slide, please. So in summary, this lays out, some of the myths and facts, and I just wanted to point out, make sure I emphasize a few points. First of all, the fixed charge is not an added fee on top of customers' existing electric bills. It's a change in how the electric bills are structured, and it's separating out those fixed costs and the usage rates. Number two, the fixed charge is not a utility tax. It will not increase utility profits. Low fixed charges are already included on customer bills, and this new structure will increase the fixed charge for some, but for all, but it also reduces the usage charge. Utilities will receive the same amount of money as they receive today for the investments they make in operating and protecting the electric grid. And then finally, the fixed charge is not going to require customers to share their income with utilities. Income verification is not required because all of the standard customers are going to be paying the same fixed charge. Only customers that are participating in our discounted bill programs are going to be voluntarily disclosing that information to be eligible. Next slide. And then finally, here are some resources if you want to read more about the fixed charge and about the proceedings that'll be coming up at the CPUC. So you can visit our website at sce.com and type in fixed charge in the search bar. It's a long URL, so I thought that would be simplest. And you can find a website with some great information and resources. You can also visit the CPUC website and search for demand flexibility rulemaking. And there you'll be able to read information and testimony from the various fixed charge proceedings. And if you'd like to read about AB 205, this is the mandate, for the new bill structure. You can visit www.leginfo.ca.gov and search for AB 205 to read the bill text. And finally, I just wanted to say, we have been out, talking to leaders in our communities, our city partners. If there's anybody in your community that we should be talking to, we would be more than happy to. And as always, if you all have questions or, need information, that's why I'm here. So thank you very much for having us. And at this time, we'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Colleagues, do you have questions?
So I have a quick question. When you mentioned the Care and Fair programs, and you said that the participants of those programs voluntarily give their income information, what are the requirements for them to enter into the Care and Fair program?
Yeah, so what I do know is that, if they're already in like another state program, that would be sufficient. But I know that we do some audits to verify. So, but I don't know the specifics. James, do you know what documentation?
I guess the reason why I'm asking is how are we sure that everyone that's in the program is really in need and has been verified?
Yeah, I'm not as tall as Cynthia, so I have to bring it down a little bit. So there's a couple different ways to apply for the program, and this is all online. What you can do is when you fill out the online form, it requests for you to submit some kind of income document like a W-2 your tax return, something like that. Or if you're already participating in one of the programs like Medi-Cal or SSI, you can submit that, since those programs already do check your income level, and that those will all be evaluated. And then later on, what we do is sort of a spot check, an audit of a certain percentage of the participants in the program to make sure that it's all accurate.
Okay.
And then customers also that are participating in the program have to requalify every couple of years because their income levels may have changed.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wu, you have any? Please.
I've been getting some concern from residents here who have invested in solar, and the reason they invested is they did their own return on investment calculations, and so they're concerned about how this change is going to affect that. So, if you are pushing back to the grid, you still pay that fixed charge.
Yeah, and and the reason for that is because still as a solar customer, you depend on the grid. So on a cloudy day, you still need the grid. In order to receive, the credits, you're needing the grid to be reliable, to sell it back to Edison. So you're still using the grid, and this is basically going to spread across all customers that benefit from the grid. I did look up, and I know Villa Park has a very high, amount of residents that have solar on their homes, and I think it's about 26 to 27%. So it's high, but what I would say is, if those residents are not paying the fixed charge, your other 73% of your residents are going to have higher bills because they're going to have to cover and basically subsidize what the solar residents are not paying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does just mess with their return on investment as far as, if you're charging them less per kilowatt hour, well, if they're pushing back to the grid, they're not realizing those savings. Now they're paying more, which would then extend that ROI that they had already counted on, when they installed. So.
And let's not forget, it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Right.
We are a power plant for you that your company and your investors are making money off of. So that is a huge issue. I will have several questions for you. Councilman Pitts, do you have any, sir? Okay. So let's talk about some specifics, because I hear the spin and I hear the various talking points, but what are we going to have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 rates? What are our rates? What are rates now? What are they going to be in the future per kilowatt hour?
We do have that. Off the top of your head.
So there's the rate structure with the time of use that's not impacted by this. This is just sort of a separate change. This isn't a rate change. I should start with that.
Okay.
This is a
That's
breakdown.
one question I've had from many folks.
Right. So there are rate proceedings that take place at the PUC, but this is not considered a rate case.
Okay.
So the rates actually won't change except for the division of your bill from the fixed charges to the usage or volumetric charges, and that just drops down, roughly a third based off of our proposals. The other proposals, that number is different. So, for example, the Solar Energy Industry Association's proposal, you would not get that same drop in the usage rates. It would be much, much smaller. So that's why their fixed charge is smaller, but you don't get the benefit of a reduced volumetric rate. And then, you have the different proposals. So the bigger your fixed charge is, the lower your rate is going to be on your usage.
Okay. Who authored this piece of legislation?
So this was included in the trailer bill, an energy trailer bill. And the way that process works is that the governor has things that they'd like to see in a bill after the full package of bills comes to them. And so this was included, the income graduated piece, and also just the overall fixed charge was part of the governor's proposal that got included in the bill.
So if people have concerns, they should send those towards the governor, correct?
They should do that, but then there's also the proceeding that's taking place at the CPUC. So there's different opportunities to weigh in. And I believe one of the council members had asked about legislation that's been recently introduced, and this might be a good time to comment on that.
Please.
There's a bill that was introduced at the end of January by Jackie Irwin. What that bill would do is basically take AB 205 and eliminate it, going back to what existed before that legislation was passed in 2022. So there are folks that want to advocate for that. We don't support that legislation because we do see some significant benefits for the people that need reduction in their bills. For example, the lowest income earners pay as much as 20% of their household income to pay for overall energy costs, not just electricity, but gas, gasoline in their cars. And that's what the legislature and the governor are really trying to target. Those that desperately need help, they need something to kind of make it a more equitable system. And that was sort of their motivation, primary motivation behind the legislation.
Well, I think we have a very, very charitable, kind constituency, the folks in Villa Park. They're very generous. But what you just described to me is a tax. It's a tax to take care of that 20%. Though it's a huge portion of their income, and I think all of us would agree that that is a disproportionate amount, the reality is somebody has to pay for it. And that charge is being passed on to us, at least a significant number of us, and that's where the issue is. By not calling it a tax when it's actually a tax, I think is a little bit of a disconnect between fact and fiction. So they're just my concerns. I am interested in seeing how this is going to look on a bill. Do you have a bill, say a current bill, and what a future bill, John Smith at 123 Main Street would look like? Do you have something that you could show our residents, so how it's going to individually affect the average homeowner within the city of Villa Park?
We don't have a
Solar and
future-
non-solar.
We don't have a future bill example yet because we don't know what it's going to look like. But we're going to have probably a year and a half long education and marketing effort that will explain to all of our customers, this is what it was, this is what we're going to, here's the reason why it's being done. So there'll be lots of lead time before this might actually hit customer bills. So the soonest we would expect it to hit customer bills is sometime probably late 2025, but all of that will be decided in the proceeding itself. If I could just point out on the tax issue, utilities don't tax.
Oh, I know you don't, but the folks that authored this wonderful piece of original legislation do, and they like to do it often.
Right.
And that's my concern. And by saying it's one thing when it's really something different is,
The one
think
thing I would
disingenuous.
point out on that is that there's no new revenues. So that's one of the challenges, is that it's been called a tax by some of the opponents, but nobody collects any additional revenues and no resources are provided to government to pay for services. We certainly don't get any additional funds as well.
I don't think any of us blame SoCal Edison at this point in time. I think it's the architects of the legislation and what their efforts were, I think are a bit of a disconnect. So,
Understood.
and since I think hopefully the new legislation will take care of that. Please, by all means.
Yeah, I just have one more question. You presented 3 different fee structures. Do those now go to the CPUC and they will decide which fee structure goes forward? So if our residents have any concerns, then they should direct them to the CPUC?
They should. And I should point out that there's a couple different phases that are going to take place. The first thing that's going to happen is at the end of March, roughly speaking, there'll be a proposed decision that comes out of the CPUC. And they'll be offering this up to the commissioners. It's essentially staff that makes a recommendation to the commissioners. And then the commissioners, by law, are required to approve a decision by July 1, 2024. So there's a period of time both on the proposed decision, there's a few more weeks that comments might be provided, but the bigger decision really ultimately comes on what the commission does with the proposed decision.
I think that's a great point. I thank you for that. Just out of curiosity, who appoints the CPUC?
The governor.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question outside of your presentation?
Sure.
It's more the power outage concern. Whenever there's a big wind living around here, our power will go out, and often we don't know how long. I feel last few years Edison has done a good job as far as emailing us, hey, the power will be out certain hour, but that's not always the case, or the power won't come on. Is Edison doing anything try to protect more the utility so we don't have this kind of power outage? It sometimes feel like we are living in third world country when we live in Villa Park, going out of the power. So I'm just curious, what is Edison going to do?
Yeah, and thank you, Councilmember Wu. I know, it's was several weeks ago, but I know there were some council members who reached out during some recent outages, and there was some confusion because we also had some high-risk, fire weather, and so there were some alerts going out about potential PSPS, and I think once there was an issue with the notifications, but actually power was not shut off for that reason. There was I know one of them for sure was a squirrel got into the equipment, and that caused an outage. What I would recommend, and I apologize, I don't have all the specifics, but I did document it, and I can get that to you after the meeting. But what I would recommend for everybody is if you go to sce.com/outage, it's pretty easy to remember. We have a map there, and you can type in your address and see why your power's out, and it'll actually provide updates. So it'll say, what type of outage it is. It's PSPS, it's a repair outage, and it'll tell you if crews have been, dispatched or if they're working on things now, what the estimated restoration time is. So it's a great tool. And then, of course, the city also knows how to reach out to me during a power outage so I can, call the actual operations folks to get information for you.
Mayor,
Sir?
and I know we had a little incident here just a few minutes ago. Can you let the city manager know later on what the outcome was, cause and so forth? And
Yes,
effect?
sir.
I believe the power's returned to a good portion of our city, but I'm not sure about all of it. But thank you again for reporting that.
Of course, yep.
I have just one final point. Getting back to the 123 Main Street address, if we could, out of transparency, and since you do track past usage and current usage year over year, could we come up with a hypothetical and state something on there so that that lady who is on a fixed income knows what her bill is going to be, or a family of 6, whatever the various different folks are that we have in our community? If you could reach out and do that, that I think would dispel some of the myths and get to some of the points that you're trying to raise. And then if people still have issues, they can write the governor, they can write the CPUC, and maybe leave you folks alone and let you just continue doing the great work you do.
It's great
Just a
feedback.
valid
Thank
point.
you. Thank
Okay?
you.
I hope that works. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Do we have any questions from the audience out there? Go ahead, sir.
Tiered structure, like the 51, the 18, is based on the grid. Is the grid specific to Villa Park, or is it a grid that Orange is using, Custom's using, Yorba Linda's using? Is it shared equally, or is it?
Can you come up to the microphone? This is valuable information. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I was just asking if the grid is shared by multiple cities, are we getting a pro rata because Villa Park has quite a bit less residents than Yorba Linda, not Anaheim, but Costa Mesa? Or is that 51 equal to every city for a standard user, or are we pro rata?
One point I would just want to make, and James, you can add on. It is, for the entire grid, everybody's paying, the same amount. When you talk about Villa Park, also the circuits that serve the city don't necessarily only serve Villa Park residents. So, you might have a circuit that actually, if there's an outage, folks in Orange or neighboring cities could be out as well. So it's all interconnected, and it's an across the board for all of the customers in our service territory.
Yeah, I would just say that 51, that $51 is across our entire service area, which is very, very large as far as up to Fresno, out to the Colorado River. It's very large. So that takes into effect the various climate zones. Without getting too complicated, we have zones based off of climate, energy use. So, for example, if you live in a very high area, we apply a certain modification to your bills. If you're more coastal and are less reliant on power, it's just a slight nuance. But when we combine all those together, that's what comes up with the $51 standard, and then the $15 and the other one at $10. Across the board, the average is $41. And what we can do, Mayor, is we can provide you with some information about the zone that Villa Park falls in. And we do have some numbers that if you're at these various levels, it gives you some indication of what addition or reduction in your bill might look like.
And would that vary solar, non-solar as well?
I'm trying to think of the chart that we have. I don't know that shows that. But since all customers, solar or not, would pay on average $41, or if you're in that higher bracket, because you can have low-income people that have solar too. But it'll capture that. I think it'll give you a lot of the information you're looking for.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate your time. Thank you for coming here and answering the tough questions, and thank you for all the work that you do here in Villa Park. We appreciate it. I'm sorry, we had another, well, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm Keely. Question I have is about the grid itself. Is there any part of the fees that we pay go into upgrading the grid and modernizing the grid? Because obviously the usage on the electric vehicles and so on, and that's a big concern. Can it sustain itself with the growth of the population and the usage?
The answer is yes, absolutely. So that would be these fixed charges that are already in your bill, but are going to be, siphoned out. That's what that's covering, and we're going to be doing a tremendous amount of work. There's some very ambitious goals to be upgrading the grid because you're going to see a lot of increased use of electricity in the future. And we actually have a white paper, Countdown to 2045, that you can read if you want some light reading, and it's on our website with a lot of great information about what we see as the future. But yeah, that is. We're also you're going to be seeing and hearing in Orange County. We're going to have to be, improving the infrastructure, even bringing in more transmission. All of that's going to be part of the equation. So.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next up, Orange County Sheriff's Department.
I'd like to order a new transformer on Santiago. Sorry, too soon. Good evening. Actually, a very good month previous to this meeting. About 227 calls for service, and over 60% of that was actually our self-initiated stuff. And there's some stuff about that I'd like to share. Our guys doing really good work. One really good piece of data is there hasn't been a residential burglary in Villa Park since early November. So people are doing a really good job lighting up their property, and hopefully, yeah, exactly, knock on wood. But it is something we should be thankful for, right? The property crimes that are occurring are those ones of opportunity, where people are providing opportunity. They're leaving a valuable bag or some sort of property, wide open in their vehicles. They're leaving tools out where people can see them. So those are the things that we're still seeing. Still very minimal. We've only got one vehicle burg and one grand theft over the last month. And the one petty theft we had was just a guy that decided to walk into Ralph's and leave with a couple bottles of alcohol. So if that's the worst Ralph's has this month, I'll take it. I don't like it, but I'll take it. So we did have an unfortunate incident at the high school, and without saying too much, there was somebody with some gang ties that was going to school there, and they got full county service, and they got a ticket to Juvie Hall, and I'm glad to report that they are still there. So hopefully they won't be causing any issues at the school anymore. As far as calls in a dispatch, I'm encouraged by it. The suspicious activity calls. We had 16 last month. We have 18 this month. So I encourage those calls to continue, and I'll say why, because the citizens are the eyes and ears, and the stuff that my guys are catching on their own, we can do even better if we had the help of people calling in. Just over the last month, we've actually caught multiple narcotics violations. These are people just either driving up and down Villa Park, parked in Villa Park, or walking through Villa Park. Narcotics violations, warrant arrests, weapons violations. And what I'm really proud about is we've actually got, since the beginning of the year, we've actually had 8 DUIs that have come through here. And so that's in the general area, 3 of them specifically in Villa Park. We actually had one that basically ran into a fence a couple weeks ago, and he was arrested for DUI too. So these people pass through Villa Park all the time, and they stop a lot too. So we need people's help to help us, they got to call these things in. Sometimes my guys can't see everything. And the stuff that they are seeing, they come through here, so don't think that they don't. You're surrounded by Orange, and they pass through here a lot, especially the DUIs. I mean, and I'm really proud of what my guys are doing on that. As far as anything else, no, I'm open for questions. Like I said, it wasn't too, wasn't too busy this last month, and the guys are doing good. So they're making up for you guys not calling. They're finding their own stuff.
Any questions?
I have one. Whatever happened to, you had mentioned that there was a resident in Villa Park that had one of those cameras pointed at their door. Did anything ever come of that?
I have to do some follow-up on that. I know that we kind of took it for evidence and sent it over to our technology people, and I know it takes a long time to get stuff back from that, but I can check on that and get back to you. I still brag about that, and that's one of my things, and even in my other areas, is what I say to call, and that picture is still in my folio over there because this is why we want you to call, because this is the kind of stuff that we'll find. But good question. I'll follow up on that.
Councilman Wu? Yeah, absolutely. I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude, as well as your deputies, for the amazing amount of work and nabbing some high-end burglars not too long ago. I am sad to report that our neighbors, City of Orange, have been absolutely crushed by residential burglaries lately. I'm not going to name the street or the development, but it's immediately adjacent to our community, and they've had well over half a dozen burglaries within as many weeks, and we're talking huge losses. So I think that's more of a testament to the outstanding work and visibility of the Orange County Sheriff's Department. And I know that Orange is working extremely hard because I've seen them patrolling both their community as well as ours to try to keep this from happening again. And kudos to the mayor over there and the city manager, who's a former chief of police, and all their efforts. Unfortunately, they can't be everywhere all the time. But just be mindful, be vigilant, and please call things in. If it looks suspicious, see something, say something. Thank you.
And a lot of the work, what people don't realize is it's not just a report call. Yes, it may seem like that the day of, but there's so much work on the back end that goes into those things, and things that just that one little report can connect this a whole syndicate of gangsters from LA to a giant case. But so every report matters. So don't be embarrassed. Call no matter what.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Orange County Fire Authority.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to stand up here before you again this evening. Since our last meeting on January 23rd, we've had 141 units that were dispatched to 47 incidents within the city of Villa Park. If you hear this each month, and it caught my eye last month, we've had about 3 months where we've had an uptick in incidents. I checked into this a little bit over the last few days. Most of them, as is usual, are all medical aids. No, the only reason I can come up with is just for the season that we're in with the flu and uptick in that. Hospitals are certainly full. There's some longer wait times in the emergency rooms. Fortunately, though, as I looked, we're trending back down towards normal with this report. And even since this report was generated, we're starting to trend back down to our normal average. So that's good news. As far as the rest of my report for the month, from our safety section, our community education section, I should say, rather. This will lead into my announcement of our open house. But every 24 seconds, a fire department in the United States responds to a fire somewhere in the nation. A fire occurs in a structure at a rate of 1 every 63 seconds, and in homes, one occurs every 87 seconds. When there's a fire, every second counts. And although fire experts agree that people have as little as 2 minutes to escape a burning home, at least 62% of Americans believe they have 5 minutes, and 18% believe they have 10 minutes or more. I'm here to say there's everybody knows they can get on YouTube these days. You can get on. There's some great video footage when you can look up legacy homes versus modern homes, and you can see it's incredible at how much faster our homes are burning these days as opposed to with legacy fuels. When I say legacy fuels, I mean our grandparents' couches, our grandparents' furnishings, and whatnot. They were built much differently than they are now, not with synthetics and polymers. And so we have houses now. We used to, a flashover might occur where everything in the room would flash or ignite simultaneously, or we might have 8 to 11 minutes before that happened. And now it's happening regularly before we're even on scene. And our response time is 8 minutes and 30 seconds on the long end. So you can see where the seconds do matter. And so we want to drive that home. That leads into this next plug. I brought it up last month on March 16th, just over 2 weeks away, Saturday the 16th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We'll host our open house, our annual open house at our headquarters on 1 Fire Authority Road. We invite all the residents to come out. It's a great event. I know several of you on the council were there last year. I'll be there again. Happy to walk you around if I can. But certainly want to open it up to the residents to bring your kids. There'll be demos. We'll be doing live demos where we burn down kind of makeshift model of a makeshift bedrooms to kind of drive home the point that I was just talking about. We've got canine demos. We've got activities for the kids all throughout the entire campus, free hot dogs, face painting, and then we'll have an entire line of every apparatus that we have in the agency. It's a really good day to be out there. The kids certainly won't be disappointed. I don't think the adults will be either. So with that, I'm open to any questions you might have. All right, please
No
let me know
questions.
if you're going to be coming. I'd be happy to meet you and walk you around. So
I'll
thank
be
you.
there. Look forward to it. Thank you. We have no further presentations this evening. Now we're moving on to public comments. At this time, we will review comments from the members of the public to address any off-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council, provided that no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. We will also be reviewing public comments on each agenda item. Steve, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on anything?
Yes, we have two. Excuse me. Jan Keeley, is that first?
Here we go again. Jan Keeley, I'm a new member to the community, only about a year and a half ago. I moved in. I'm so far loving the place, and thank you for all the good work. We did had a little bit of a burglary, but it's not something that was stolen. The contractor left the equipment, and it was stolen from our backyard. It was reported, but it was not my loss, it was his. I still feel sorry for him. The question I wanted to ask is completely different. Is there any future plans to possibly add additional lighting on the streets? Because at nights, if you try to walk or ride a bicycle, it's fairly dark, and I wonder if there's any future plans to improve the lighting systems.
That question has been discussed in the council prior to any of these council members. So I believe the vision of Villa Park was a more suburban, rural setting without lighting and sidewalks. So there is no master plan, I guess the best way to say it, there's no master plan for increased lighting or sidewalks at this point.
Thank you. Next. There's a familiar face. Welcome, sir.
So my name is Chad Zimmerman. I live on Hanninger Way. And I am here to talk about stop signs at Serrano and Nichols that are missing. I say missing because they were removed. Am I not talking into it? Am I taller than that? I'm taller than I expected. What I'm talking about specifically are two stop signs on Nichols Avenue that have been removed where Nichols intersects with Serrano. At this intersection, right in front of Cerroville Middle School, we have two stop signs, northbound, southbound, that are no longer there. So why were the stop signs removed? The goal of removing the stop signs was to reduce traffic congestion. So I want to start off, great goal. Love having less traffic around that area, around the school. We had a change in the traffic flow near the high school, and the thinking was that these stop signs would increase the flow of traffic, and this would help residents. So I wanted to specifically address that goal in terms of what the actual impact is. So that impact is between 7:50 in the morning and 8:05, maybe as much as 8:15. And then in the afternoon, right around 3 o'clock, although it's a little less at that point. When we talk about the goal of this and why we're doing it, we need to set some expectations. Will removing the stop signs actually change the traffic flow? Will it make any difference? And I would contend that the answer is no. I did speak to the principal at Cerrovilla, and his quote to me, I'll just get this right, no perceived difference in traffic since the stop signs have been removed. So this is an issue that impacts a very small portion of residents. The benefit is what I'm talking about here. Who does this actually benefit if we increase the traffic flow here? We're talking about a few people. And actually, I would contend that that number approaches 0. If we're talking about just 15 minutes to 20 minutes in the morning, most of our residents know not to go out there during that period of time. The traffic hasn't changed from where it was a year ago to now. And so removing the stop signs has also had no change. So now we talk about the problem with removing stop signs in Villa Park. The impact of that intersection we'll talk about first of all. So I looked up to Google directions. There are hundreds of homes in Villa Park that process and use that intersection to get in and out of Villa Park. An example would be going to Target or Trader Joe's. That is to all of the streets that are east of that intersection. So up Serrano, you've got James, you've got Valley, you've got Saravilla. We all know that area of Villa Park, hundreds of homes. It's anywhere from 25% to 30% of Villa Park that's impacted by the missing stop signs that are no longer there. And this intersection that is impacted by those missing stop signs 24 hours a day. So whether you're there first thing in the morning or whether you're there during the middle of the day, this has an impact. And my personal experience with this is that it has become incredibly dangerous. So this intersection originally was designed for three-way stop. It's been a three-way stop for 40 years. And in fact, at least for the last 20 that I've been here, our police have monitored this intersection. They've sat at this stop sign and they've given tickets to anybody going north and south who's stopped here, presumably because it's an incredibly vital stop sign and it's legally required for people to stop there. And yet somehow we've just removed it. This is not an agenda item. It's public comment, but this isn't something that City Council approved. This isn't something that you guys voted on. And I hesitate to say that if you were told we're going to remove a stop sign in front of a school to prioritize the flow of traffic over kids that are crossing in a crosswalk, removing a mandatory stop sign at a crosswalk, my guess is that pretty much every council member, I know I would vote no. They would say, do not do that. Our priority has always been in Villa Park, the safety of kids. Safety for our residents, and with no perceived upside in removing the stop signs, of course we would leave them in place. So I also want to briefly address the precedent here, because if we can just remove a stop sign without council approval, I don't think the police were asked for approval. The sheriff, I don't know if you got a request to say, hey, is it okay if we remove this stop sign? I know that when we change a speed limit in Villa Park, council has to approve that. I remember we had one on Center. We have to say yes or no. This is any 5 mile per hour change in the speed limit. City council has to approve that. But a stop sign can just disappear. 2 of them can just disappear.
Chad, if you could wrap it up. Thank you, sir.
I absolutely. I realize I'm right there. So my request is that given that there is no agenda item required to remove a stop sign, there should also be no agenda item required to replace those stop signs and put this back to the way it has been for 40 years to keep Villa Park the same. Please, one of you, get the stop sign put back up right away. Thank you.
Thank you for your point of view, sir. Appreciate it. Steve, do you have any others? Okay. All right, we're moving on to the next item, which is public hearing number 1. And I'm sorry, item number 3, first public hearing. Let's see, our first hearing is the review to waive reading in full of all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda. I will now open the hearing. Staff, please give the staff report.
Thank you. This is the regular monthly item that we put on the agenda to expedite the processing of the various agenda items. We would recommend approval.
Council members, do you have any questions of staff? Is there anyone here to speak at the hearing?
No
Seriously doubt it.
speakers.
Thank you. Council members, any discussion, or do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
I have a motion and I have a second. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And let's all vote.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Second public hearing, item number 4. Our next hearing is the second reading of the addition of section 18-6 to the Villa Park Municipal Code pertaining to maintenance and repair of lateral sewer lines. I will now open the hearing. Steve, if I could have a staff report, please.
Thank you. You recall that on January 23rd, we had our first reading of this ordinance. This is to clarify the responsibilities about maintenance and of the lateral lines of sewer lines which lead into the main lines. Main lines would be responsibility of the city. Laterals are the responsibility from the connection to the residents would be the residents' responsibility. This is to clarify something that was not explicitly clear in our ordinances, and we're making an effort to clarify that. There have been no changes nor any public comments since the first reading.
Council members, any questions of staff? Okay. Anyone wish to speak on this from the public?
No comments.
Okay.
Requested.
All right. Any further discussion from council? I don't think so. I will now close the public hearing. Is there a motion on this matter?
So moved.
I have a motion and I have a second. Please vote.
Passes 5-0.
All right. Our third public hearing, item 5. Our next hearing is variance 2024-02. I will now open the hearing. Steve, can you please give us a report?
Sure. Thank you. This is a variance request at 18541 Valley Drive. Justin Urbanski from our Planning Department is here and make a presentation.
Yes, Mayor, as a member of the council, the variance application before you is variance 2024-02. The variance application involves 18541 Valley Drive and pertains to the side yard setbacks for an already built attached 656 square foot patio cover and partly built entertainment wall. The property is located in the E4 zone and is regularly shaped with slope topography towards the front and rear of the parcel. The size of the property is 41,910 square feet and is 170 feet wide by 300 feet deep. The property is currently improved with a pool and a 10,329 square foot single-family dwelling. I'd like to provide a timeline of the application, as this is an after-the-fact variance application. On October 31st, 2023, staff were made aware of an unpermitted patio cover and entertainment wall being constructed on the property. The building department sent a stop work order to the property owner and requested that he work with the city on ensuring the property meets development standards. The same day, staff informed the applicant that a full site plan would be required showing the scope of work to determine whether the property would conform to applicable zoning standards. On November 7th, 2023, after determining that the patio cover and entertainment wall encroached into the minimum side yard building setbacks, city staff informed the property owner that he had 3 options to move forward with the project. First, he could remove the patio cover and entertainment wall and return the area to its original condition. Second, he could apply for an after-the-fact variance. And third, the structure could be altered in a way that conforms to the applicable zoning development standards. On November 29th, 2023, the applicant did submit the after-the-fact variance application. And on January 20th of this year, we received the variance materials in advance of tonight's meeting. Per section 23-6.7 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, all homes, including attached patio covers, must maintain a side yard setback of 10% of the average lot width, but not more than 20 feet and not less than 10 feet can be required. The current side yard building setback for the unpermitted patio cover and entertainment wall is 8 feet, which is a deviation of 9 feet from the 17-foot side yard setback required for this lot. Per state law, we did notice the agenda item with a 300-foot radius of the property at least 10 calendar days prior to tonight's meeting. And the applicant did provide 2 letters of support from neighbors across the street and 1 neighbor next door to the property, which are included in Exhibit C. Since the item was agendized, I have not received any additional off-agenda letters of support or opposition from neighbors. And after careful consideration of the property and the variance request, city staff does recommend denial of the variance and requested setback deviations for the following reasons. First, the property is larger than other properties in the vicinity. Even when netting out setback and topographic constraints, the buildable pad is larger than other properties in the immediate vicinity. Second, the property is more regularly shaped than other properties in the vicinity with no difficult contours. And third, the property has no difficult easements which may preclude the property owner from building the patio cover and entertainment wall within the required setbacks. That will conclude my report, and I'll be happy to answer questions or concerns.
Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions?
I have one. So if the property is 41,000 square feet, how much of that is not sloped?
Yes, so it is not included on the exhibit, but I do know based on my observation from the property, a lot of the slope topography would be not buildable anyway because it's within the 30-foot front yard setback and the 25-foot rear yard setback.
But we don't have an actual number.
I do not have the actual buildable envelope provided from the site plan, no.
Maybe the owner knows.
It's possible.
Would you like to step forward and share any knowledge you have with us about your buildable pad, sir?
My name is Aaron Olson. I'm here tonight with my wife, Taylor. I appreciate you taking the time. I don't actually know the full percentage of that, but based on where our garage and parking motor court stops to the hillside up at Villa and our front driveway down, we're probably less than 50% of our property is not sloped. So it's a huge chunk in the front, huge chunk in the back. We have no backyard on the property itself. All of our living and entertaining space sits up front of the property. I do want to say when we first moved in, we've been here since July. We moved from Yorba Linda. The house was pretty turnkey. The one major issue it had was because we're fully in the front yard of the house, it had no shade structure. So we get full southern sun all day long. So one of our first project was find a contractor, let's put a patio structure. We did a lot of research. We found a really good commercial grade, powered louvered, horribly expensive, like everything else with this house, Taylor. Sorry. Structure. They did the layout and the plan. We kind of approved that. They had a third-party construction vendor that was going to physically install it, and then that's where the breakdown happened. We had a huge miscommunication of, are you pulling permits? Are you pulling permits? 100% on me for not reading the contract correctly. I thought the installer was physically pulling them. And the second bill came over to the house, it immediately put everything to a screeching halt and went, oh crap, I'm in trouble. So 100% my fault. Immediately went to city council, started the permit process, started the easement process, got with a engineer company to do all the load calculations, to do all the plot plan and the site plan, did the radius maps. So literally trying to do everything we can to make the mistake that is mine go away. I've even had several of the council members came by the house just to see the unique nature of the property. We are set back pretty far from Valley. We are elevated, and our neighbors on all sides are not on our same lot line. They're either above us or down from us, and there's literally 3 homes within that radius map that can physically see the structure itself. No excuse. Still should have done the proper procedures, but with the amount of money we've put into it, upwards north of $100,000 into the structure as it currently sits, and potentially another 15 to 20 grand to modify it to fit within the code, I thought it'd be good, just let's take a shot at physically getting the variance. So that's kind of where we're here today.
Thank you. Council members, questions? Okay. Any, go ahead.
I wanted to ask Justin, so the slopes, though, you counted those when you did your side setback calculations?
No, so our side setback is just based on the average lot width. So that would be the 170 feet is from each side property line, and we take the average of that, regardless of whether it's sloped or flat.
Is there anyone here from the public that would like to additionally comment on this? Please come forward, give us your name and address like this gentleman did.
John Valentine, 9571 Lemon Street. Very familiar with this situation. and having gone through it. We walk by that house every day. And when we first moved to Villa Park, it was an eyesore. They have done an excellent job of improving it, and I would like to speak in favor of it because they have an odd-shaped lot, and there are variances granted, I being one that had a 5-yard setback for a patio. And I would like to see this approved because this is a benefit to our community.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Anyone else?
Hello, we are the neighbors directly across the street from the Olsons, and we are also in favor of the patio cover. It does not jeopardize our view or our city whatsoever, so, excuse me, we are in favor.
Could you please?
Could you give us your name and address, please?
Oh yeah, my name is Catherine Helfrich. We're at 18532 Valley.
Thank you. Thank you. Council members, looks like we've exhausted all public comment. Do you have any discussion any comments you'd like to have?
Well, is there a middle ground? I mean, the city is saying, let's deny your variance request. Is there a further dialogue you could have with the city and maybe bring it a little bit more in conformance so we don't have to deny it? Because if we deny it tonight, Steve, we need to talk about the process of what he has to go through beyond this. Correct?
It could not be brought back for a year for consideration again.
Yeah, I think he'd be in a lot of pain if he had to wait a whole year, so.
Yeah, I would love for anybody and everybody to come physically visit the site just to see how unique it is, and physically get the visual of what we are impeding and not impeding. Again, I know it's code. That's 100% on me. But is it doing any visual damage, or is it hurting the visual of the city itself? I don't think so. The house is stunning. The house is gorgeous. So
Yeah, I'm not sure that's in question. I think, your neighbors say it looks nice and so forth and so on. But we do have ordinances and things that we do have to follow. The next time someone comes forth with something like that, we may run into some more problems. But I just want to make sure you understand that, if we say no tonight, that it's going to take you another year to go through this process. And I think, if there's an opportunity for you to sit down with Steve and the city planners and stuff and redesign this in some way, shape, or form that can conform a little bit closer to code or in code, then you might have a better chance.
Councilman, I'd like to, it is pre-existing now. It's existing, right, as I understand it?
it's existing. It's not.
So it's not, the plans are already done. It's done. The issue is the code, the variance is the compromise, if you will. That's where the council can weigh in and say, we accept it as whatever. But that's essentially, the code remains the city ordinance, and we're working from that. And the council has the prerogative ability to approve the variance, which would basically allow it to remain. But as far as
But I thought you said
replanning it,
earlier-
it's already built.
Yeah, but I thought you said earlier that modifications to be made were somewhere
yeah.
around 20 grand.
The modifications will be major. So it has all the electrical is done, all the drainage, and I say plumbing, it's roof drains to exit water off of the hard structure when it opens up. All the data cabling, because there's going to be a TV out there, everything's done. So moving it is not like a very quick situation.
Can I make a comment?
I would like to make a comment real quick. I'm just concerned about the precedent. First of all, I think you have a beautiful home. A colleague of mine was actually online looking at it, dreaming a little dream. I said, keep dreaming, not going to happen. And what you've done has obviously added more to it. But I am very concerned about the precedent, not because you've done necessarily something horrendously egregious. You obviously made a mistake. You owned it. I appreciate that. But if we do grant it, then that opens up a huge can of worms and sets a really poor precedent moving forward. Colleagues.
So I went and visited the property, and honestly, prior to visiting the property, my first inclination was I don't like it when people come after the fact. However, For me personally, and I only speak about myself, I can't speak for the other members up here, I do a litmus test. And we've had some where perhaps it's a contractor that does work in the city often that knows better, and they build something that sticks up a little bit past a wall, and the neighbors behind notice it, and they should know better, right? Because they do work. I don't think that's the case here. So that takes off for me. Takes off the well, let's look at this again. The other one is perhaps a resident that has communicated, the city has communicated with several times with emails and phone calls about you're going to need a variance, and then they just completely ignore it. That's not the case for you here either. I know that there are several situations that I have gone to a home, and it was pretty much like your situation, right? So you guys are relatively new here. You've trying to beautify your home and improve the neighbors. And then, unfortunately, you just didn't know. And it's the ask for forgiveness instead of permission, not because you did it on purpose, but because that's where we're at now. So seeing the home and realizing the uniqueness, I can appreciate that, this variance, although it goes against what the city is recommending, I don't want to penalize you, but I also am stuck because, we're going to it could potentially set a bad precedent. However, that's what the term variance means. I know that I'm a big property rights owner, but that doesn't excuse if you blatantly ignore things, which I guess what I'm saying is I know you didn't blatantly ignore it. It's a beautiful property. You are up high, and you've got these pine trees. There's no opposition up to this point, correct? In fact, you have people that live relatively near that are coming forward. So I'm in favor of going ahead and my opinion is saying yes, because that's the nature of a variance, because it is not impacting. And if you haven't seen the property, I really think you should go look. But I appreciate you owning it, because that's a big thing for me is it's not a situation like we've had with a fence on Santiago or with a shed that stood over. So I think granting this evening would not set a terrible precedent because of the uniqueness and the fact that I think that they are demonstrating that they have recognized that they made a mistake. And we should show some grace with the caveat, don't do it again.
No, believe me, I won't.
Council members?
Yes, I agree with Councilwoman Miles that, mistakes happen, and that the council should show grace in those instances. I know that what we have in front of us from the city says that there aren't any exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions that apply to this property, but I've been driving by this property for I can't tell you how many years, and it really is unique. I mean, you have a lot of traffic going by what's basically your backyard, and up on the hill with no one really, to the side of you except for now that one property. Now that they've developed that, I really feel this is one of the more unique properties in our community, and so I do feel that because of the uniqueness here and where this is located and the improvement to the property, that I would be in favor of granting the variance.
Council members, any further comments? Please.
I will also be in favor of granting this variance. I certainly understand our city staff has to go by the ordinance, and they recommend what they recommend. But being there, seeing it, it tells a little bit different story. I wouldn't say different story. I would say just show the uniqueness of it. And also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the so-called front area is your backyard. The concrete and the pool was already there. You did not create that.
The only thing that was added was the additional patio structure. Everything else was completed.
Due to that, it's already there. To me, it makes sense to grant it, because if I were you, I wouldn't want to break up the concrete to try to create something different. Why break us something to spend more money on? The end result is going to be the same. So I understand that, and I also understand, again, according to our city ordinance, you had to be 17 foot away from the PL. That really practically, if I recall correctly, your front yard, more than half is occupied by the pool. And speaking to you and your wife, you're trying to create more sitting area. And if I were you, I would do the same thing. So I would definitely try my best, if I were you, would try to utilize that limited amount of concrete area to create more sitting area and also provide shade for the house. We all know how the sun damage can do to the exterior of the property. With all that, if you have to go by the ordinance, 17 foot away from the PL is really left you practically unusable concrete area for sitting. You may probably just put a couch there. So in that uniqueness, to me, I see that's unique. Personally, I look at each property as unique itself versus what it was done in the previous house or whatever house, because each house, that's one of the reasons why we're all moving to Villa Park is because over time, even though back then it was a tract home, but now each individual house become a uniqueness. So I definitely in favor of it.
Thank you very much.
Any further comments? Justin, is there any other place the structure could be built or could have been built on property?
We believe, looking at the setbacks elsewhere within the front yard, and also a detached structure would have been possible because it would be at least 50 feet from the front property line as well.
Okay. That's my recollection of the property. I've seen it. I didn't visit it with these current residents, but I've seen it. So thank you. All right. Well, I don't think there's any further dialogue. Councilman Pitts, do you have anything further, sir? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Is there a motion on this matter?
So I'll make a motion to vote no, because if it's a.
Double negative again.
So here we go.
So,
we pay him the big bucks.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
in support, so I would like to see them be able to do the variance.
Steve, Justin, did one approval, one denial, right? Because we never know what's going to happen.
You're right, we pay them the big bucks.
Right. In the end, variances under state law have to be based upon unique characteristics of property, impact, special circumstances. You've stated in the record, some of you, that there are such. That has been incorporated into the, if there's a motion for the approval resolution, that's in there to support those facts.
Okay, so you have both resolutions.
So
Okay.
if you were to make a motion, you would make a motion to approve variance number blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
2024-02.
Then I will make a motion to approve variance 2024-02.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this. Please vote.
Passes by a 3-2 vote.
Congratulations. All right, next public hearing is item number 6. It is tentative parcel map 2023-183. I will now open the hearing. Steve, if I could have a staff report, or Justin.
Sure. This is a follow-up to action taken. As you recall, you approved a variance on January 23rd. This is at 19181 Mesa Drive, and I will let Justin fill in the details here.
Yes, thank you, Steve. So, it's 19161 Mesa, but I don't have any additional comments. As we recall, the variance allowed the applicant to bring this forward with a lot smaller than 20,000 square feet. It is the same map that was on the variance application. Since that time, we have not received any additional comments or concerns from neighbors, and we are recommending approval of the tentative parcel map tonight.
So to be clarification, this is the follow-up step to action that approved the variance. This parcel map will actually change, will be filed and recorded, and it changes the property lines as a result. This action is an administrative action that will be filed with the county clerk recorder and with the assessor. So essentially, down the road, property taxes will be aligned with the parcel map that is approved potentially by your council this evening.
Council members, do you have any questions of staff?
So I know in the thing it says that there were 14 signatures of approval. There's still no opposition?
No, we've received no comments since the original. So that, let me clarify, the variance has already been approved. So this is a subsequent action that will allow them to record the property lines, parcel map lines, in accordance with that variance.
Any members of the public here to speak on this? Nope. Okay. Any further comments? Do I have a motion on this? I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. Please vote.
That passes by a 4-1 vote.
All right, next up, we have the consent calendar, items 7 through 9. Now we will consider our consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and are usually enacted by one motion approving the recommended action listed on the agenda. Any member of the city council staff or the public may request an item be removed from the consent calendar for discussion or separate action. Council members, are there any items 7 through 9 that you would like to pull?
Number 9, please.
Number 9. Okay. Anything else? All right, do I have a motion for the balance, 7 and 8?
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second on 7 and 8. Please vote.
Passes by a 5-0 vote.
Item 9. Sir, it's yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Steve, I just thought it would be prudent for us to kind of tell the public a little bit about some of the wonderful things that we've done as it relates to reduction in the organic materials and things like that. When I read the survey initially, it scared me a little bit because I wanted to make sure that we had measurements. So when we tell the grand jury that, that we're doing these wonderful things like 50% reduction and so forth, that, we do have measurements in place that we can demonstrate that. So if you would just take a couple of seconds and let the public know that we are in fact measuring these things and that we are making substantial progress in this effort.
Yes, thank you, Councilman. The survey was not filled out by ourselves alone. We contacted Republic, which does keep track of the tonnage and whatnot that is done. You'll recall number 4 is probably the first one that really is a metric issue, and that's how successful in 2020 were you? That's several years ago. We didn't quite meet it. That's why we're well on their way, 70, 80%. So that's why we're giving ourselves 4 out of 5 stars. Are you confident that your city, number 5, will meet the goal in 2025 to 75%? If you ask me, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm 100% confident because that's the goal. That's the law. Okay, so I don't think we should be saying anything yet that we're not going to meet it. That would sort of be contradictory to what our role is. Number 6 would be success in providing collection services. We have done that. We've had a number tied to, we had a town hall, we've had some elections, we've done stickers, I think, that people put on their trash cans, 2 different colors, I think they were, green and blue, maybe I'm wrong, whatever. But we've done, the services have been out there. I know that we actually are working with them. Probably the one issue on 1383 that is not addressed in very much is enforcement, because we have not actively gone out there and tried to cite people. We're doing an education process. But as far as the first goal in 2020 was a 50% goal. We have done well. Are we going to get there further? Yes. Have we provided opportunities for residents and educational material? Yes. So I think that overall we fare pretty well. You'll recall that we adopted an ordinance that changes our rates, in fact. So Republic has met those compliance requirements. I think, and as far as number 8 and 9, we start talking, 8 is the education, which I just mentioned. Number 9 is the city procuring a quantity. Yes, we have Republic's data to verify on that. And 10, how would you rate your success in record-keeping requirements? It's been a challenge, but again, working with Republic, I think we've done a good job. This didn't even exist before 2020, so we've recreated the whole thing. And it's been a big learning process. We still have people call, say, where do I put this or where do I put that? how satisfied with your current agreement? I'll be very candid. We're satisfied with the agreement. The compliance with that agreement would be maybe a little issue I have with Republic. We've had a previous discussion with Republic on some of their abilities, but at the same time, our agreement is intact, and I think it's well stated. And we amended it for 1383. And are your city's current staffing letters? Yes, we are very small staffed, but we have set it up in such a way that we can work with Republic and gather the data and report it. We have to actually report this to the state as well. So this is not the first time we report it. We do an annual reporting requirement. We have that, and it's with the state, and we've been held as the standard of the state, and they've said we're satisfactory. So I guess if that answered your question?
Sir, absolutely, 100%, thank you. I just felt like, when you fill out a survey, it says grand jury.
Sure.
And to just pass it through without having some dialogue and talk about the wonderful things we've done in Villa Park. And my wife and I, when I bought whatever that thing is called, Lomi or whatever, and we recycle all of our, food waste and so forth through that, put the dirt back in the flower beds. So, but I'm very pleased with our progress. Thank you. That's it.
Any further? Nope. Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 5-0.
New business. Our first item of new business is regarding automated license plate recognition technology. Staff, Steve, in this case, please give the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. We've kind of had a lot of discussion about this. We've had 2 town halls. LEAC has met and talked about this. What we're talking license plate reader, license plate recognition, I guess it's automated license plate is the technical is what they use. But basically, these are fixed base cameras or they collect images of license plates alone, and they can be used to help track incoming and outgoing traffic of vehicles inside the city. These are a major item that's been used throughout the state, actually, probably the country, I don't know where. But anyway, the pros and cons have been discussed and hammered, and I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I know law enforcement and the captain can add if he wants to, but they strongly recommend. Several of the issues that have come up during our town halls and in talking to the council and actually the residents, one, how much does it cost? How many intersections are you going to have? Who's responsible for maintenance? Where's the data protocols? All those kinds of things. So those questions can't be answered unless we take the step that's recommended tonight. And that is to allow one to work with the sheriff to identify the specifications and street intersections that they would recommend, because as you know, there are multiple entrances and exits to Villa Park. 2 is to issue an RFP with actual vendors, and there's a number of vendors. There's 2 primary in Orange County, but I understand now they're popping up there's several in LA that are but we need to get that out from a fair bidding process and see what the actual cost is so we can report back. And then our third recommendation is to come back with that information to the council. And the next question is, when do you think you come back? Based on working with the sheriff, I would expect the next 30 days we'd be able to issue an RFP. It's going to take about 30 days to get an RFP and a little bit of time to evaluate what we get after, because we'd like to sit down with the sheriff, talk about, did they hit the nail on the head or did they miss it or whatever. And so I'm thinking that we'll be back to the council with a recommendation in May. And that then would be, we would have the information available to actually let a contract in May if the council believed that was the appropriate way to go, and if they were comfortable with a number that recommend. There's a lot of give and take that would have to happen potentially by May, but that could be the case. So with that, I think this is the doing our due diligence, I guess is the best way to describe it. This is a responsible way to make a decision, move forward, get the information, and not rely on hyperbole or somebody else attesting that this is what they paid or, urban myth. Let's get it from the vendors, because they're the ones who are going to start billing us, not the people who are telling us it's going to cost something else. So I think that's what's important. And also, I think we need the sheriff's expertise to give us some idea of the heavily trafficked roads from their perspective and what types of things they would need to help them in using it as a premier crime detection solving instrument. I guess that's, and if you want to add anything, Captain, go ahead.
This thing. No, like Steve said, it's a very, very effective tool not only in real-time operations where crimes that have just occurred, but in backtracking and solving crimes could be days or weeks later. So I'm happy. I'm not an expert at it either. My investigative team is very apt at using the system. But I'm happy to answer any questions about it. I don't really. We've held multiple town halls, so I don't want to beat the drum too much. But happy to answer any questions if you have any.
So just a couple things. The town halls are on our website. If someone wants to go back and see the link, they can go back and watch the town halls. Number two, this is not a final decision tonight by any shape of imagination. This is the step to get to the ability to make a responsible decision because it will involve funds. The other things we've been asked to look at by the mayor are opportunities for other funding sources that might help us. And so that's going to take some time as part of this process. So our hope is when we do come back under item number 3, we'd have a full set of responses for the council to evaluate and say yes, no, or any modification thereof. So again, this isn't the final decision, but this is a responsible step to get to a final decision.
Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions? Please.
I just have more of a comment that probably the number 1 and 2 question I get is how much are these going to cost and where are they going to be located? So I would really like to see this go forward so that we have that information for our residents.
Thank you.
I love this because we can't make an informed decision if we don't have the information, right? So a request that I have, which I'm sure you guys already are putting this in your planning for when you work together, but could we possibly maybe get information on a range? So like the minimum that you feel would be would cover us, and then perhaps the maximum where we had, money falling from the sky. If we could get a range of bare minimum 3 cameras, sweet, we've got 12 type thing.
In talking to other cities about how they did it, they approached it by intersections as opposed to cameras because there's almost no point if you only cover part of an intersection because you've really only done part of it because they can go the other way and you've just lost all that value. So they do it by intersections and and talking to the sheriff's staff the same way. How much, what are the intersections they recommend and whatever. So which are the ideal ones to cover, which are the absolute necessary ones, so that kind of thing we could do.
So that's my min-max.
Yeah,
That's the only thing
I think we're trying to get to the same way, but
Fantastic.
instead of saying number of cameras or whatever.
using the wrong language,
Yeah, we
yeah.
get into, here's the intersections and, these would be nice to have, this would be really important to have.
Okay,
And this
fantastic.
is no worry about it.
Captain Patel, did you have any further?
No, it's exactly where I've asked my investigative team is to kind of do that a tiered approach, basic, intermediate, and ideal.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Sir.
The only thing, Steve, that I've encountered from many residents is data privacy encryption and things like that. So I think we need to come back, when you come back with recommendations, I think there needs to be a carve-out and a discussion around how they protect people's privacy and data and things of that nature. Okay.
So you'll see in there, we specifically worded it, we return with an evaluation of data collection processes, access, and retention policies, which I think kind of drives to your point. That's probably the number 1 question we get too. Who's going to have access to it and how do they get access? So the sheriff has some real definite protocols. Some of the companies have interesting protocols too that they set up. So it's something that we need to come back with and sit down with the sheriff and say, workable, not, or whatever. I mean, we need to clarify that stuff.
Any further comments? Do we have anybody from the public who'd like to speak on this agenda item?
Public requests to
Okay.
speak.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion on this matter.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, and I have a second. Everybody please vote.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item of new business, item 11, is regarding parking modifications at various locations. If I could have a staff report, please.
Thank you. This was sort of initiated twofold. One, we had a resident contact us from on Dotson Avenue, and then the second, we had the sheriff come in, the deputies come in and talk to us about Taft Avenue and some problems that they felt were created because of parking on Taft Avenue, parking, loading zones, et cetera. So we went out for it, and you'll recall that we had originally set it up, we set up for last agenda. We pulled it off because there were some, I don't say contradictions, but basically inconsistencies between some of the exhibits and our resolution. So what we went back and we clarified this, and if you read these, like I was talking to Mayor Pro Tem, every time I read this, I have to go back and it's like rethink each one of them, because you go, where is this? Where is it talking about? The nomenclature is not nomenclature that you and I as a roads person would talk about. The nomenclature is how a traffic engineer refers to it. And I've said to it, like, you can be eastbound, south side, but still be talking about the westbound lane, which is really kind of like defies logic to me, but you have to, if you follow their logic as a traffic engineer, it makes sense, but I'm not a traffic engineer. Anyway, long story short, Exhibit 1 is the existing, Exhibit 2 is on Taft. Primarily, you're going to see a comparison of the two, and you can compare. What it does is it tries to, I would think what you're really going to see the biggest difference is the changes for the red zones on the south side, or the side facing the school, closest to the school, on Taft. And that goes all the way from, Bixby back down to the entrance of the school. So that's really what it addresses here. These are all itemized in the staff report. I don't want to, it's take me a couple of minutes to go through it all, and that's it. The other issue was brought forward is we have the resident, and it's, you try and think you read things over and over, but on 9681 instead of 9631. So anyway, on Dotson, is complained on several instances. I think she actually wrote you a letter saying that people are parking in her driveway. So the picture you'll see here on the very last page of the attachment is the red curbing that we're proposing, which would prohibit people parking. I've never really thought you had to paint red curbs around corners, but apparently you have to up there. So this person has sent you a letter supporting it, the resident, because I think that was a question of the Mayor Pro Tem last time, was that resident supporting of it? Yes. And it is only for that area. We're not talking all the way down the street. It's just the house on the corner, because they actually can't pull out their driveway because people are blocking it. So those are the two items that we're talking about here. We also removed Serrano and Nichols from the stop intersection because, as you recall, in January, we approved a traffic study of that specifically. I believe that'll be done hopefully by next week, I'm guessing. We have received a number of responses from the public. We sent out a request for anyone who wants to comment on those intersections. We did. So I would expect in March that we'll have a recommendation on that item that was previously included in it. So we've removed that so we can deal with that intersection. It's entirely on its separate note. So I guess what the point is here, we are trying to improve the safety of and to avoid the accidents that are near misses that are happening right out in front of the high school. It's a challenging area because it's really heavily trafficked, and in the mornings and the afternoon on Taft. But what you're seeing here is an effort to improve it and improve some visibility for the entrances and exits to the school. And that's probably what, with keeping the safety of the students in mind. So that's a long-winded response to staff report, but basically that's what we're trying to accomplish here. By no stretch of the imagination are these permanent. If we find something else should work better down the road, we can certainly change those. But again, this was started with with our SOO came in and said, you know what, I just watched a near miss again this morning. We need to do something about this. So he spent a good morning with the engineer out there showing her the difficulties of it. So we credit the sheriff for citing and letting us know when we have potential problems. But that doesn't mean solving this set of problems won't create other problems. So we're going to try and have to just be flexible here and continue to deal with it. For instance, we think we know what the anticipation of opening that last element of the school construction will be on the far side, or in the entrance there, when that becomes faculty parking again. And we then are now complicated because it appears that there'll be a new pool built in there, so that will involve some more construction. I don't really know how that all plays out, but for the time being, I think we've addressed the issues that we can, and I'd recommend approval at this time.
Council members, questions? Go ahead.
So as someone who actually drives this, I am particularly supportive of the changes on the eastbound south side as it pertains to the visibility. you have when pulling out of the driveway by the new science building, because I've been out there with school district personnel and have seen several near misses there myself. So I think that this will go a long way to improving the visibility as our students and parents exit that driveway. So I'm very supportive, and also just want to highlight the fact that the red curbing is only per the illustration, and because I had a question for staff. It does not go all the way up to 9631. As is noticed, that's a typo. It should be 9681. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with Councilwoman Jones. Until Zach in April, watch out, gets his full driver's license, not just his permit, that I agree that southeastern border curb, it's really difficult to see, along with what people are doing is, you have to make a right. You can't turn left out of that driveway. And so people that are parked on the red there to let someone out, they actually will just do a U-turn there, and then they'll hit near miss from the people going straight, or they're going to go left turn into that. They make a U into that left turn lane. So I know it'll probably be chaotic, but I'm in support as well. I think it was designed initially, if you turned right, hopefully that would prevent any near misses, but people don't follow the rules, and also it's hard to see if a student's coming because. You'll have pileups, so I'm in agreement with it as well.
So just as a point of clarification, compliance is always different than what it is. So that's a problem. So I had a very interesting discussion with the motor. I don't know if he's a sergeant or whatever he is, but he and I had a really good conversation. He told me his favorite spot to get tickets used to be on Villa Park Road. Now it's up by the high school. So I would also warn people that he knows this is happening because he had this discussion, and he'll be spending some time there. Not going to say when, but he'll be spending there. And he says it's a hotbed of tickets, is what he referred to it, I think.
So, and if this does get approved, will we be able to have, for the first week or whatever, a sheriff there that?
Yeah, we'll have people out there. Yeah, no question that we'll have them out there, and we'll put it out in a feeder. We'll do try and do a lot of things to educate, so it's not just oops, it's red, you didn't know that. You show up one morning and it's gone.
They pull over anyways.
We want this to be something that people have ability to alter their schedules or their changes, maybe leave 5 minutes earlier, do something they have to do to get there. So we're going to make an effort to roll this out in a uniform approach that allows people, and then to enforce it as well.
Right. Okay.
The U-turns are a problem, and I'm not sure why people feel that's a good thing to do, but it happens, unfortunately, at every single school we have in Villa Park. They turn a U-turn. And it's scary not only for the other cars, but for the children, pedestrians, because you're not having someone anticipate someone do a U-turn right into you. When you look both ways, you don't look to see if someone there is going to do a U-turn into me. You typically look left and right, and so I teach my kids, and we walk across the street. But when somebody's doing a U-turn, you don't see it. So I think that's an issue that we have to resolve at all the schools, and I think that we're going to make an effort. The sheriff's been really great. And I think the motor deputy is really taken to the role real well here.
Well, kudos to the sheriff as well. So.
Could I also suggest, if this passed tonight, could we send this map to the principal so the principal can also send it out to all the parents?
Right. We will do that. Good idea.
Council members, any other questions? Any members of the public here to speak on this?
No.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead. Do I have a motion on this?
I'll move it.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and close it. I'm going to call for the question. Please vote.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Next item of new business is regarding the approval of the pavement management plan contract update. Steve.
So we received money from OCTA, Measure M, M2, the second facet of M2 of Measure M, which was approved years ago. Anyway, as part of doing that, we're required to submit every other year a city pavement management plan, and that's the determined pavement condition. You heard us talk about PCI. Every other year, it has to be evaluated. So what we did is went out to bid for 2 firms and got responsive bids from 2 firms, Marker Geospatial and Buckman Infrastructure, and Marker has completed the last 3 street pavement evaluations, but they also are all the low bids, so we're recommending approval. And we need to do this in compliance with OCTA in order to receive money that we use to do pavement repair.
Okay. Questions, council members? Hearing none, seeing none. Members of the public here to speak on it?
No.
Hearing none, seeing none. Do I have a motion? I have a motion. I have a second. Please vote.
Passes 5-0.
City manager report. It's your floor, sir.
Thank you. I think we are actually getting up to, you're getting a lot of the stuff done. There's nothing really super urgent to report. We've had some, I am very proud to report that we made it through some of the heavier rainstorms, and knock on wood, I shouldn't say this, but we made them without any real significant issues. I mean, I don't know if residents had problems with their roofs, but we didn't have any infrastructure issues, which I was very proud. So when you do, I would ask that when you see Mike, you go and give him thank him, because he was out on all those rainy days picking up branches that might have fallen that would obstruct traffic or whatever. So that's something I just want to make and commend Mike, because he is sort of that hidden presence that goes out and he takes care of things. So otherwise, there's nothing else real strong, new or urgent. We're beginning our budget process, and we will be conducting hearings in April and May, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember the dates off the top of my head. And then we'll adopt in June. So I can answer any questions.
Council members, any questions? Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to mayor and council member matters. Item 14. First up, Orange County mosquito and vector control.
Thank you. We met last February 13th, so almost 2 weeks ago. And we have a budget and finance committee meeting tomorrow. But they did a year in review, so I'm just going to read a couple of the statistics that I think are important. For scientific technical services, there were 4,774 traps set throughout Orange County. There were 6,233 mosquito pools tested, 218 West Nile virus positive mosquito pools. We were one of those, if you remember, when we had treatment. Total dead birds were 50, with only 2 of those that were positive for West Nile. Ticks identified and tested 190, fleas identified and tested 663, total mammals collected 24. So mosquito fish distribution, these are the ones that you can call and get for your ponds, 115,000. So a lot of those. Some of the things that Orange County Mosquito Vector Control does as well, besides the mosquitoes, is treats for rats, red imported fire ants, flies, and other. There were 98 backpack treatments. Those are the treatments that are done in our marshes or like over by the reservoir. Residential truck mounted treatments, 478,475. Drone treatments, there were 11. Door-to-door inspections. Our inspector for Villa Park is extremely responsive. West Nile virus, there were 2,671 requests. 145 of those were actual treatments, not all in Villa Park. That's all over the county. For Aedes aegypti, 6,953 with 188 treatments. So total, there were 333 treatments for West Nile virus and Aedes. So these are the assessment dollars on your property tax. And if anybody wants more information, there's a ton, but your tax dollars are definitely being put to good use. So, and we are about to start mosquito season again, even though in Orange County, all year is mosquito season. We have our high mosquito season, which is going to be starting soon. So after the rains, again, make sure you tip toss, take action. Anything at all that holds water, you definitely want to turn upside down and dry out. That's it.
Thank you. Next up, Sanitation District.
This month we had so far the administrative committee meeting that I attended last Wednesday. There was no reportable action, mostly presentations. Our actual board meeting is tomorrow night and should be a little bit contentious because of some of the closed session items that will be on the agenda and some of the things that I think I shared with all of you with regards to some of the residents in Huntington Beach. So that'll all be on the agenda tomorrow night to discuss. So I'll give you an update next time.
Thank you very much. Next up is Orange County Fire Authority, and that is mine. I attended 3 different meetings. One, the Operations Committee on February 13th. We elected a new chair and vice chair, and frankly, not much else went on at that meeting. It was a very short meeting. Budget and finance, very similar. We're in a very good financial situation compared to most. And we elected a new chair and vice chair. The chair and vice chair of the new ops committee, or upcoming ops committee, is Joe Kalmick, and his vice chair is Chris Duncan. And then budget and finance, we have Troy Bourne as the new chair, and the vice chair is Austin Lombard. The regular meeting was last Thursday, and the lion's share of the time spent and debate was closed session regarding labor negotiations. That's really about it. So pretty light agenda despite 3 meetings. That's all I have. Next up, Orange County Library Advisory Board.
I attended a meeting. It was just more orientation for me since this is my first time being on there. In the meeting, we had elected new executive committee. They will meet again in a couple months, I believe. That's all.
Thank you. Orange Unified School District City Schools.
So we didn't have a meeting, but I do want the community to be aware that the schools will be closed from March 25th through 29th for spring break. So traffic will be light.
Okay. LEAC, no meeting. Villa Park Community Villa Park Community Services Foundation.
So, unfortunately, due to a miscommunication on the meeting day and time, I didn't attend last month's meeting, but I did attend the Foundation's Lunar New Year celebration that was held here on February 10th. So thank you to our Orange Unified School District board members, Anna Page and Andrea Yamasaki, for coming out to support this great event. And huge thanks go out to Councilman Wu for all his hard work on this celebration. He makes it bigger and better every year. And we really enjoyed seeing the puppet display, as well as the other poster boards that you had inside City Hall. And more thanks need to go out to the North Orange County Chinese School and their principal, Jeffrey Wu, for bringing the students to perform for us, which is always a highlight to have those kids out there dancing and performing. So that's all I have to report.
Housing Legislative Committee. Bridges at Kramer.
So nothing new to report since we last met, but because we'll meet again in April. However, we are doing me and the bylaws. So we're looking at the bylaws because, as I mentioned before, sometimes we're handicapped by being able to have a quorum because the original Bridges at Kramer Place that was first established 6 years ago, the bylaws were very minimal, and it was one person was appointed, and if there was no accommodation, if that person couldn't go, so there was no alternate that could go in their stead, and that would count. So in realizing that you only meet quarterly, sometimes we couldn't get anything done because the bylaws did not include any kind of alternate. So I have my first bylaw ad hoc committee on March 8th via Zoom. We're going to address on some other things there, but then that way, hopefully for 2025, there will be 2 members that can be appointed for the Bridges at Kramer Place Advisory, the member and then an alternate. So that way, if somebody can't make it, it satisfies the quorum. So that's coming up.
Thank you. Orange County Older Adults Commission.
So we have a big meeting on March 8th where we have the Older Adults Advisory Commission, but also there's the area plan update. And so you ask, what's the area plan update? There's a public hearing, and the area plan update is conducted by the Office on Aging, and surveys were sent out. If you remember, I talked about this back in like September, October, November, December, and we put it on the feeder and stuff. And so it helps get information about what's important to adults, or older adults, sorry, everything from the contracted services to the local non-contracted services. And so the first draft of that, it's a public hearing, it's open to everybody, it's at Easter Seals on March 8th, immediately following the regular meeting. But what's included in it, so the Older Americans Act programs, contracted services, and this again is something, as now I'm on the executive committee there, one of the things that we found is information does not get out to the community as readily as it should. And a lot of people, older adults or caregivers of older adults, don't realize all the different programs and services that are offered, sometimes completely at no cost, or otherwise they're eligible and don't even realize it. So I'll just go over a couple of them. There's adult daycare, there's case management, community services, senior activities, information and assistance, in-home services, legal assistance, ombudsman service, residential repairs and modifications. This is great because if you're someone who just happens to need to have like a shower railing installed in your shower, they'll come and do it at no charge. It could even be a ramp. Let's say all of a sudden you find yourself restricted to a wheelchair and you have stairs and you just need a ramp. There are programs through the Office on Aging and Orange County Community Services. I'll give you the number in a minute that anybody can call and they'll come do these at no cost to you. Transportation, obviously, we have the mobility program. We have some other transportation services, also the senior non-medical emergency transportation. And then what we're really finding is that the family caregivers, so if you're a caregiver of an older adult, there's services that support you as well, which is really important to keep you healthy. There's senior community service employment programs, so a lot of our crossing guards, we draw from that. Congregate meals and home-delivered meals. Congregate meals are those, like if you have a community center and you offer free lunch on Wednesdays versus the home-delivered. Again, there's programs for some of our older adults that maybe live alone or, can't cook anymore, and it's like a Meals on Wheels. Elder abuse prevention, ombudsman again, and those are all the contracted services. And then other California Department of Aging programs or local programs, you can have the high cap insurance counseling. So if you're not sure what that's about, there are people that are there free of charge that will answer all your questions. Medicare Improvements for Patients and Providers Act, CalFresh expansion, the Senior Non-Emergency Medical Transportation, and then Direct Services or Aging and Disability Resource Connection. So there are so many different programs, and there's something called the No Wrong Door. So the number I'm about to give you, you can call that, and anybody can, and say, I have a family member who needs a ramp, or I have a family member that isn't eating like they should and needs nutrition services. They will direct you, they'll put all your information in, and then when they direct you to the specific department, you don't have to give your information again. Because one of the things that they found was really frustrating was people would, a few years ago, would have to give who they were, their name, what the problem was, and then they'd get transferred and they have to do it again. So the county has come up with this no wrong door, so everything gets collected right then, and then when you get transferred to the program specific for the needs that you have said you're in need of, that person or people will have your information right for you. So the number is 1-800-510-2020. And if you have an older adult or you're a caregiver of an older adult, please call that number.
Again, what's that number?
1-800-510-2020. And we are coming up with a QR code that we can put out into the universe, and that QR code will take you directly to the website that you can just click on to say, I need dietary information, or I think there's elder abuse going on, or there's scams. My grandma's getting scammed or something like that. So that's it.
Thank you. Now we will have individual council member items, starting with Councilman Wu.
I have attended the Lunar New Year celebration and also Home tour. That is a fantastic facility, I feel, helping out the homeless family. Glad to see some kind of facilities like that exist in Orange County. And also I attend the Villa Park Little League opening. It's always fun to look at little kids running through the tunnel. So that was a great event. Thank you.
Councilwoman Miles?
So I also attended the Villa Park Little League opening day, which is near and dear to my heart, having not only served on the board, but having two boys that went through the program. So it's grown immensely from when I was in it, and that board there put a lot of time and energy into making sure opening day was a success and there was no rain. And it was really special seeing one of the challenger players throw out the first pitch to you. You couldn't catch it.
You threw a curveball. I was expecting a changeup.
But it's such a great community activity involvement, and the parade with all the floats. So for those who aren't familiar, each team decorates a float, which is their car or car pulled by, a trailer pulled by their car. And you have the Yankees or the Tigers or, MLB themed teams. And some of those were just crazy. They go out, they just go nuts. So I have some pictures that I can send that we can put in the feeder. But that's a great activity and community involvement. And I had a great time.
Indeed. Mayor Pro Tem.
So I attended the California Office of Emergency Services meeting on January 31st for a briefing on the February storms. As the city manager stated, Villa Park was not as affected that weekend as other parts of the state, but it was very enlightening to hear how prepared our state is for these types of disasters. On February 9th, I attended the French wedding at Villa Park High School, and it's always a remarkable production. And for those of you who might not know, it is a full wedding put on at the high school, all in French. So it's cake cutting, the whole 9 yards. So it's quite remarkable. I was happy, as I stated earlier, to participate in the Lunar New Year celebration here, but I also attended the Lunar New Year celebration put on by Fletcher Elementary School's Mandarin Immersion Program, which was at Canyon High School. And for those of you who might not know, Fletcher Elementary offers a comprehensive K-6 Mandarin Immersion Program, and those students then matriculate up to Sarah Villa Middle School here and to Villa Park High School. So it's amazing to see everything these kids are learning, and it was nice to see our Villa Park High students participating and supporting that performance as well. And then, as Councilman Wu stated, on February 21st, we took a tour of the homemade Orange County Family Care Center, which is an emergency shelter for families who are suddenly experiencing homelessness, which is very unique. A lot of these shelters take in individuals as well as families, and this facility is for families only. So it was very interesting to see their facility and hear about the upcoming expansion. And then finally, I was also happy to attend, along with everyone else, the Villa Park Little League opening day. And it's always, very nostalgic for me as well, since all three of my boys played for Villa Park Little League, and it always makes you feel like spring is just around the corner. So thank you so much.
Councilman Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. February the 8th, I attended the Villa Park Rotary annual holiday event at Anaheim Hills Country Club. It was a beautiful setting. It had a lot of fun games and things like that for us to participate in, but just the opportunity to get together with fellow Rotarians and celebrate the evening and the accomplishments for the year was really, really good. I, too, attended on February the 10th the Community Services Foundation Lunar New Year celebration. And Councilman Wu, great job, buddy. That you always are there for that, and we appreciate the puppets. I looked at them. I thought they were dolls at first. Were absolutely gorgeous and amazing. And the work that they do with those are just outstanding. So that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I was thankfully joined by my fellow council members at the opening day for Villa Park Little League. Had the incredible opportunity to receive the first pitch, and it was a doozy. Young man threw a great curveball. All kidding aside, it was a wonderful time. There were literally hundreds of parents lining the streets for the parade, and it truly made me feel, this is what Villa Park's about. I mean, just that close-knit environment that we live in. And as the other council members pointed out, my son and my daughter both played in Villa Park Little League. She's now a travel softball player, but she got her start in Villa Park Little League. And I knew when she was better than the boys, she was destined for some greatness. So she's still going. And my son, thankfully, he's been active in travel baseball, and the lessons that he learned in Villa Park Little League have contributed greatly to his success. I want to thank, in a closing note, a special thanks to Captain Wiedensoler and Steve Franks. Prior to this onslaught of storms that we had, I reached out to Steve, and he reached out to Chief Wiedensoler, and I think I called you Captain. I apologize. Chief Wiedensoler. It's different over there. Long night. Chief Wiedensoler, in making sure that we had enough sandbags and we had enough sand and that we were all staffed up and ready to take care of whatever came our way. And they did a phenomenal job. And I want to thank you, and that's all I have. We are adjourned. Our next meeting is March 26th, if I can get my iPad to boot back up. March 26, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. Have a good evening. Stay safe.